There we go.
All right, welcome everybody. Rob paused on his flow for a minute to spend some time with us, and this is a Rob-centric call. I'm calling it right now. Today's topic is coaching is not a one-time event. You need to build a culture of continuous feedback. I've got some fun stuff we're doing to implement feedback loops and stuff into companies, but let's start with the people-centric stuff instead of systems. Too many companies will treat coaching as a single workshop, onboarding checklist item, annual retreat, or whatever it is. Because it's inconsistent, it's why it stalls out. It's why people don't, let's go back to a previous episode, adhere to the words on the wall. And so if you want that to happen sustainability wise, you need a culture of consistent, actionable feedback. And so today we're talking about if you want growth, if you are a leader or consider yourself one or aspiring to be one, feedback loops and peer learning and manager support need to become a part of your culture. I'm sure there's some things to talk about in terms of why and what you think is next. Rob, you want to start?
Let's talk why first. Yeah. Why do we care? So what did Gallup say? Engagement's at 21%, right? The lowest it's been in recorded history. So people say, I don't like corporate America. Why don't they like corporate America? Overwhelming majority of people report that they have a terrible boss who's authoritative, who's a bully, who's dysfunctional, a narcissist, right? Some kind of bully, some kind of, right? All they know is parenting because that's all they grew up with. They got promoted too quickly, did not get trained, know nothing about how to coach. And then we say, well, what about Gen Z? Well, overwhelmingly, Gen Z says, I'm not doing that stupid thing my parents did. I'm not going to be a corporate slave, right? So they're opting out. They're trying to do everything they can not to go into corporate America. So there's an engagement problem. There's a recruiting problem. Our society functionally has an entry-level turmoil and sustainability problem. And coaching is the change in posture that's needed to solve at least half of that gap.
I mean, that sounds like the foundation of a thesis, if not a book or two.
Yeah. I like what you said about how they're coming in, and I think you probably meant to say authoritarian instead of authoritative. The difference for me is authoritarian is dictatorial, it's tyrannical. Authoritative is I'm establishing myself as the authority, the person you can come to ask questions. The reason I highlight this is I read a great book called The Collapse of Parenting, and I'm synthesizing what he talks about. He says you don't want to be a permissive leader, you don't want to be an authoritarian leader, you want to be an authoritative leader. You want to be someone that your team can come to ask questions, to get answers, not necessarily someone who's going to dictate from the top down and stifle creativity. So I love that you brought that up.
If you have someone who doesn't know how to get the job done, meaning to get people to do something, and they're struggling, do you think they're going to default to one of those behaviors, one of those less than desirable things because they're frustrated, because they're not being given the support they need to lead the people beneath them? Like, is this part of the systemic stuff that you started with, Rob, or is it even deeper than that?
I go one. Let's go further back than that, right? So, love the differentiation and the definitions. Gen Z will still give you the middle finger, right? Because millennials wanted teachers.
Okay.
Right? So let me sit with you and show you how to do this when you need, right? They respect the kind of that parochial model, if you will, teacher student. And then you get to Gen Z and they're like, nope, I have opinions. I'm an adult, right? Like, we need to have a more democratic, facilitative posture, right? Yes, I'm on your team. Please don't constantly remind me that I work for you, right? Subtle difference. And that desire for ownership of self and path is awesome, but most leaders don't know how to deal with it. They don't. And the answer is switch your mindset, stop being a boss, start being a coach.
Well, so this is a question that I have, because you're going to get, especially as AI continues to progress, you're going to get millions of leaders out there who are going to say, screw them. It's far easier for me to just use an AI agent that can do this entry level work. So I would love to hear you speak to why they shouldn't turn to that AI agent to do that entry level work when it's going to be easier and more convenient for them. And, you know, if these Gen Z are going to be a bunch of little jerks, then why on earth would I hire them? Why would I work with them? So I'd really love for you to speak to that, because I think a lot of people are, especially in the near future, I mean, ChatGPT 5.0 is coming out next month. In the near future, people are really going to be asking that question, I think.
Yeah, ChatGPT is going to come, large language models, if you will, right? Not to be partisan in any regard. Certain amount of automation and robots are coming for a lot of jobs. We're already starting to see a little bit of a pushback. People are joyful, right? They're reveling in a typo now, right? The disdain for email written by AI, like, this is a game changer. People are like, delete, right? Like, there's already this like rebellion, this human rebellion. So there are certain industries, right? Even the service industry, especially if we go greater into retail, if the economy moves in all these different directions, there's always going to be a certain amount of humans doing a certain amount of things that have a certain amount of leaders, right? So no matter what you eliminate, what you take over, there's a certain amount of leadership that's going to need to adjust and make the most of the children we raised, right? There's no choice. There's only 43 million Gen Xers. There was 75 million boomers. By and large, they're retired, right? There's 73 million millennials behind Gen X, right? That's good for now, but the workforce is transitioning to increasingly more and more Gen Z. You cannot just say, well, the robots took your jobs. There's nothing more dangerous in a society than a whole bunch of young men with no purpose, right? That's a recipe for disaster. So we're getting a little philosophical here, but yeah, let's not cause ourselves a bigger problem by chasing profit, right? Like,
yeah. Well, and I think that it's a short-term view as well, right? Building off what you're saying, I think it's a short-term view, because if you're thinking about succession plan and your business lasting beyond you, which you absolutely should, you have to have someone who's come in and who, if not with your organization, then in an organization, has worked their way up from the ground, and they understand the ins and outs of the industry. Because if they don't, then they're going to make bad decisions. I'm writing an article about this for Martech right now, where in our last call, Jacob used a term, single-use plastic thoughts. And basically what's happened is there's a research study that MIT did that showed that the more technology you incorporate into your critical thinking, the less your mind thinks. So they did 3 different tests, or 3 different groups. They had someone write an essay without any assistance. Someone used Google and someone used ChatGPT. And this was large groups, right? But what they found is they attached these people to EEGs so they could measure the brain load. They found that if they were doing it just their brain, very widely distributed neural networks pulling a lot of disparate information. When they started using Google, that went down. When they used ChatGPT, it went down even more. And so we're getting into this age where you cannot substitute critical thinking with ChatGPT. You just can't. And so we're entering the age of single-use plastic thoughts. And I think that really lends itself to what you mentioned.
So I have a piece I want to throw into the mix here, because I think the internals and externals are really reflective of each other. And, you know, being an ops guy, Like I'm trying to systematize and improve the internals, but that doesn't make it necessarily responsible for the culture, right? Like that's why specialists like Rob, like it all has to come together. But with that in and out conversation, I was speaking with a mentor recently, and his perspective, the stuff that we were working through was the continuous coaching of clients, right? Something that I have to think about, I have to work on, I have to be consistent with, because again, there's that sort of behavioral change you're trying to get from people. Do it this way now. And they write it down, and then what, two idiots, me and them, assume that because that happened, it's good. So there's this rhythm that needs to be maintained. And I guess that's kind of what I'm asking for, Rob, is what would you say the baseline is of how consistently you need to revisit something so that it actually becomes a part of the program, a part of the way we do things? Is it like a daily thing, like we all used to do Pledge of Allegiance in the mornings at school, or is it a weekly thing, or like how consistent does it have to be for it actually to be?
Culture change is hard. It's hard, and getting it to where it's all the way to the point of just tacit compliance, full emotional acceptance. That's where you're talking about getting to.
Okay.
So practice can grow over time, and then it goes through it goes almost like the grieving process, right? Rational acceptance, rational processing, conscious competence, right? Like all that.
Right.
And only after progressing through all those levels do you end up with unconscious competence, where it's just adopted and accepted and it's okay. So if we're going to do this, should we have posters up? Should it be reflected in our values? Yes. Should our leaders be walking that talk, like role modeling that behavior with their subordinate leaders? Yes. If it doesn't start at the top, it won't be the culture, right? So if people don't start saying things like, well, what do you think, Jacob? Right? Zach, can you tell me what ideas you have for blankety blankety blank? Right? And then I give you the information. So it takes more work to come up with the questions to ask people to facilitate as a coach. You have to also think about the boundaries, right? What do we need to achieve, and what are the constraints? Give them some operational sandbox to be able to work in and think in.
Right.
Right? It's not all blue sky all the time, but this is the problem we need to solve. Back to Zach's comment about earlier, I used to tell my people all the time, please stop bringing me problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the business of solving your problems. I would love for you to grow to solve problems yourself and become confident and competent in that. So next time you come to me, bring me the problem and your 3 best ideas for solutions. And we'll talk through those ideas, pros and cons, right? Weight, risk, all that stuff. We'll process and we'll figure out. If you need help deciding, I'll help you decide. But I'm not going to be your problem solving machine, right? I want you to be able to do that.
Yeah.
What you get from people is gratitude. Oh, thanks. You care about my growth and development? Oh, I'm going to get a skill out of this? Oh, look at that. Right? They actually feel good. And then they do things like last week. Hey, Rob, would you be my reference? I'm looking to get out of this toxic workplace, right? Yes.
Right.
Yes, I will help you.
So
it's a bit of a ramble, but carry on.
It's we've got to pull at these threads to get to the stuff that's underneath, right? Because one of the ways that I've looked at it just experientially recently is there's a new team member, and you get the classic like growth scenario. Wow, this person's really great. We're lucky to land them. They bring them in, right? And then I'm talking to that person because we're blueprinting out the processes and where the systems are failing.
Right.
And I'm like, what's your job here? And they're like, well, they just told me to do what you did at the other company because you were great at it.
I hate it when that happens. Right. I hate it when that happens.
Well, they hate it when that happens too, right? Because they were a 9 out of 10 at company X, and now they're at a 4 or 5 and struggling and frustrated. And so just to hand it over to Zach, the other thing I heard you say, Rob, is it sounds like onboarding is actually a 12-step program.
Oh,
But,
yes. Yes.
Yeah, you had a comment, Zach.
Yeah, I hate what you just described where I call it collecting people, because that's fundamentally what they're doing. They meet a guy or gal, and they say, wow, this person's really smart. I think I can use them. So they hire them, they bring them on board, they just kind of throw them in a slot, and they never really fully recognize the autonomy of that individual, right? They're looking at that person as a tool.
Right.
So when that when that individual starts to have an opinion, right, they get really upset. No, you're not supposed to have an opinion. You're supposed to be a tool. And so I think that is, I'm sorry, what?
How come you're not winning at your KPIs as well?
Right? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, well, hey, I have this idea that we could do this, this, and this that would be helpful. No, you're a tool. Stop talking. Do what I want you to do. And it's incredibly frustrating on both sides, because it destroys the relationship. The person on one side says, well, you were supposed to be this great tool that was going to solve all my problems. The person on the other side of the relationship says, how could I solve your problems if you won't let me do anything? And so it's this incredibly frustrating thing. And I think that that's kind of what we're speaking to here about coaching as well.
Absolutely.
I had a boss actually tell me, stop thinking like the chief learning officer, Rob. You're not in that job. That's exactly what you're talking about, Zach. Exactly. I said, well, maybe somebody should be. Maybe that's what this company needs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Don't. Like, good ideas. Admire people for their strengths. Don't be so insecure. Right? The greatest honor you could have is promoting somebody and watching them run past you to a higher role, right? Like, not everyone wants to be VP of whatever. Like, it's
right. Yeah. Well, and don't put them into boxes either.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Potentials vary. Let's go back to onboarding, right? Like 12-step process. As soon as you said that, I had a lot of things run through my head. But to plug my own lead magnet here, I have on my website a customizable onboarding form. It's like 6 or 7 pages long. It's more than 12 questions. Starts with a clear statement of intent and goes all the way into, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What kind of skill would you like to develop? What do you want to get done in the first 90 days, right? It's so coaching facilitative. It's about discovery. It's not about putting person in a slot and like hammering on them till they do the thing that you need done. It's got to be a fair exchange. Otherwise, you just don't get the engagement.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Too many get it wrong.
What would you like to say about the first steps in getting it right?
My favorite model that we teach is the GROW coaching model. There's a lot of other models out there, but it's just, beautiful and elegant in its simplicity, right? What's the goal, right? What's the reality? What are the options? What's the way forward? It's that easy. And if you approach it from that standpoint, that structure, and just keep asking questions, that employee stays in the driver's seat. They stay fully empowered. The responsibility stays with them, right? To unpack their reality, to state their goal, to talk about what they've tried, and plot their own path forward. So you're never taking their power away from them. You're keeping them in a position of power. And then they leave and they're like, oh, I'm like a legit adult. This person respects me. How about that? Yeah, I own this. right? And then we ask questions like, what could I do to help you be more successful? And whatever they ask for, if I can say yes, I say yes. All right, I'll schedule the next follow-up meeting. Okay, I'll talk to so-and-so and get you that resource. Okay, right? What can I do to help? That is servant leadership.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a process that we flipped recently. We built something a while back called the response engine because, platform based has a button, give me a review. And we're like, wait a minute, what if it was, how are we doing? So it was built on that platform. It's got a 1 to 5 slider. If they click 5, it could go to review, site of choice, or 4 or less. It's like, do you need a 15-minute complaint, a 30-minute tech support? Like that's a thing we developed a while ago.
Okay.
But I had a conversation with an HR person recently. Right? They're specialists in it. That's what their company does. And during that call, we brainstormed how to internalize it. Because there's already an automation sitting there. You have to customize it, but it's got 17 touch points, right? Somebody downloads that onboarding form that you're talking about. First touch point, right? Did you use it? How did you enjoy it? But instead, it's just like, hey, it was your first day at work. And then I met another guy who has got a brilliant platform and lots of nice APIs inside, and it solicits video. And I was thinking about the younger generations that you're talking about. So it's like, hey, name, first day at work, want to record a quick video for the team? Tell us how it went. And they do not have to be encouraged to solicit video, right? Like it's daily life for these people. So yeah, I think there's something there in creating this culture of feedback. And at least if you're committed to gathering the data, you might have something to do with it. Because I think that's the habit. The habit isn't like, what's going on? We care. Tell us how things are. And like, unfortunately, that's customer centric and employee centric in a lot of organizations. I guess why I'm bringing it up is knowing that it exists. What do you think the best practices are for that stuff? Like, do you have to sit in a dark room in a really good mood and absorb this feedback from team members and stuff? Or do you have to coach the coach to listen? Like, how does that stuff work?
It varies a little bit across environments, but I would say let's talk retail first.
Okay.
Right? One of the tools that we're trying to bring to market is hit a QR code, click on a face. Hey, that's Zach. He helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In less than 30 seconds, click, click, click. How did Zach do on these 4 to 6 key behaviors that we've determined are the essential behaviors for our brand? That's it. Right?
Yeah.
It's not complicated. There's no extra text fields. You're not trying to type stuff out. Real simple.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have a leaderboard, and we have like a weekly role model for each of the behaviors.
Beautiful.
Who doesn't want to wear that crown? Who doesn't want that gold star? How do we drive behavior in the culture? Are we going to walk around with a stick beating everybody and firing those who don't? Or are we going to walk around handing out carrots to those who are the role models for doing it right?
Beautiful.
Increasingly, we need to hold out carrots and stop beating people with sticks.
I agree. I think the Jack Welch model needs to go away.
I'm not saying we're not accountable, right? It's not about absolving accountability, because if people just refuse to do the thing they need to do, if they're just obstinate and they're running a 2.2 on a 4-point scale in perpetuity, the threshold for performance here is a 3, right? We're going to have a coaching for alignment conversation here, right? Like, they trained you how to do it. If you're not a culture fit, you refuse, you're obstinate, then I'd encourage you to look for another job, right? There will be accountability, but by and large, the culture will self-police, right? If everyone around you is doing the right thing, the good thing, and it's recognized, and that's what we talk about at the morning meeting, right? We're celebrating the win. Top line sales are growing. Average order size is going up. Hooray, right? This is a great, fun place to work. The leaders are great coaches. They want me to grow and succeed. Hell, I might stay here more than a year. You never know.
And that's what I mean too, right? The Jack Welch model was the bottom 30% of performers, even if they were matching your expectations. And it's just not healthy, especially in today's environment. Jack Welch would crash and burn, right? Like his entire workforce would rebel against that. And I think that what you're describing is a far more holistic, far healthier perspective on things. Like you still have to meet the expectations,
right?
But if you're not performing, then obviously I need to take extreme ownership and say, where have I failed to give you the tools, knowledge, or support you need to get the job done?
Right.
Yeah.
How can I help you? Right.
Yeah.
Until you get to the point where it's just their own will in their way. Right. You got to help.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think just to loop back into the AI conversation for a minute, this is where it fails because you can pull the data, but I do believe you're going to need a human being to interpret it.
Sure. Yeah.
And action it, right? Like you can't just be like, oh, digest this. Like if maybe at its base, it's a point system.
Right.
Then you can score people, but you're scoring them for, again, KPIs, not happiness, not, how joyful they are at work, not all the stuff that really impacts your brand in the end anyway, because you're the person facing your customer.
So maybe you're saying that we should color up our quantitative data with a little bit of qualitative data and direct observations of behavior. Yeah. Right? To give it more meaning and make it more actionable.
Yeah.
Like, yes, a holistic approach to coaching and feedback. Yes, qualitative and quantitative. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like that feedback machine is probably only as useful as the person interpreting it. And so therefore you have to train them up.
Yep.
To respond to it and know what to do with it and how to treat certain things relevant or valuable. Because that's what affects the thing. In this case, automation, not AI, but automation only serves the beginning of the purpose, not the end. And I think that's that thing. We get fascinated with the tool, but not the purpose.
Right.
Right. Look how powerful the drill is. Cool. Are you building a birdhouse? The stairs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That needs to change.
Truly. Anything else that you want to leave people with in terms of like final thoughts or focus, or even if you start doing this, it'll make a difference tomorrow, next week?
The simple adoption of a coaching model, right? We know mine is my favorite one that I think is most culturally appropriate given the demographic distribution in our workforce is the GROW model.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever you choose, if you're going to drive your culture in that way, in the interest of retention, engagement, optimal performance, right? Make sure you follow through, put up signs, role model from the top, drive that culture change down through the organization, integrate it into your mission if possible, your values, absolutely, mm-hmm. right? It's part of who you are, define who you are, and then make sure you're walking that talk. And I'll go back to Gallup citing the 21%. What is Google's engagement right now? 90%. Wow. Do you think they have any problem hiring people, retaining them, getting optimal productivity out of them? Nope. So yes, they're a bit of a unicorn, but there's no reason your business can't be a unicorn too. The environment is so bad.
Right.
You only have to try a little bit to be head and shoulders above your competition. So Yeah, come on. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rob. Again, really appreciate your time. And dropping in early today and all that kind of stuff. You guys, if you're watching, reach out. We have experts you can resource here. There's that download that Rob mentioned. Go find this live stream, drop the link to it, please, Rob, so people can get that onboarding form and put it to work. And as always, anything you respond to, thoughts, ideas, etc., it benefits everyone who is paying attention and participating.
Yeah, challenge us back.
Yes. Thanks so much for your time. Have a fantastic day.